My name is Wanda and I am 35 years old. I was finalizing a contract at my desk when my phone buzzed with a wait that didn't feel like another notification. The image loaded before the words, and for a moment my brain refused to assign meaning to what I was seeing. My passport, torn into thin strips, blue cover, shredded into confetti, sitting on top of our kitchen trash like something disposable. Then the message arrived, calm and deliberate, as if it had been drafted, reread, and approved. I shredded your passport. You're too obsessed with work travel. You're staying home where you belong. We need to work on us. My flight was in 6 hours. My brother's destination wedding was in 4 days. I stared at the screen and felt something inside me settle with a clarity that didn't hurt the way shock usually does. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't jealousy. This was control. And once you see that line clearly, you can't unsee it. We'd married 3 weeks earlier in a courthouse ceremony he pushed for hard. He said he didn't want a long engagement, that love should be decisive, that waiting only invited doubt. I remember thinking it was romantic. I remember ignoring the tightness in my chest when he framed urgency as devotion. Now that urgency had teeth. I typed one word back, noted. Then I stood up, called my assistant, and asked for the nearest passport agency that handled same-day emergency service. I told her I'd pay whatever it cost. She called back in 3 minutes with an address downtown in one condition, proof of imminent international travel. I had my boarding pass. I booked an Uber and left the office without my coat. My phone started exploding immediately. I didn't look. I made it to the passport agency by 2:30 p.m., heart steady, steps fast. The clerk glanced from the shredded passport photo to my flight confirmation to my face and asked quietly, "Your husband did this?" I nodded. She smiled, not unkindly, the smile of someone who had seen this before. "Let's get you to that wedding." $400 later, I had a 5 p.m. appointment. They'd have my emergency passport ready by 8. My flight was at 11:30. I went back to the office, packed my laptop, and forwarded every missed call and text into a folder labeled Evidence. 31 missed calls, 52 messages. I didn't read them. At 8:07 p.m., I picked up my passport, took an Uber straight to the airport, checked in, and ordered a whiskey at the gate. Only then did I scroll. The messages followed a familiar arc. "Baby, where are you? We need to talk like adults. You're being childish. Marriage means compromise." Then the threat. "If you get on that plane, I'm changing the locks and throwing your stuff out." The final one tried for bravery. "Fine, go. When you come back, you'll see what happens when you choose your family over your wife." I replied while boarding, "See you in 2 weeks." "Maybe." Then I blocked his number and ordered another whiskey. For the first time in weeks, I breathed properly. On the flight, the pieces clicked into place. The late nights, he said, were planning sessions. The way he talked about her, the woman at work, with a familiarity that went beyond professional respect. The trips where her name appeared in passing, always followed by a quick change of subject. The jokes about work wives that weren't jokes at all. The pressure to prove my loyalty by canceling plans with my family. The way he framed my independence as abandonment. By the time we landed, I wasn't angry. I was awake. At the welcome dinner, I told my parents what happened and showed them the photo of the shredded passport. My mother went quiet in a way that made the room feel smaller. My father said, flat and certain, "You're ending this now." My brother found me later by the bar and admitted he'd never liked the way my husband watched me when I talked about travel, like he was tallying escapes. He told me she had cornered him once and asked whether I was really committed to family or just pretending. The question landed like a confession. That night, I met a woman at the reception who turned out to be a family law attorney. We talked. I showed her the photo, the texts, the timeline. She listened, sipped her wine, and said, "You have grounds for annulment. Fraud, coercion, destruction of federal documents to control behavior, clean grounds." She told me she practiced in my state and could file as soon as I got back. For the first time since my phone buzzed, I slept without a knot in my chest. The ocean was loud, the stars indifferent, and my life, for the first time in weeks, felt like it belonged to me. The wedding unfolded the way weddings are supposed to, loud with laughter and soft with meaning, a reminder of what commitment looks like when it isn't built on urgency or fear. The ceremony was at sunset, the sky turning copper and pink, while my brother stood barefoot in the sand, grinning like a man who knew exactly what he was choosing. I watched him say his vows and felt something loosen in my chest. Not sadness, relief. Seeing love that didn't demand surrender put my own situation into sharper focus. On the second day, I sat with my parents on the balcony and told them everything, not just the passport, but the months leading up to it. The late nights he called work, the way he'd bristled whenever I booked travel without looping him in, the way he framed my independence as distance. I showed them the texts. I showed them the photo. My mother held my phone for a long moment and then handed it back like it burned. My father said what I needed to hear without drama. You don't negotiate with someone who destroys your documents to keep you in place. Later that night, my brother admitted he'd never liked the dynamic. He told me she, the woman from my husband's office, had asked him pointed questions at the courthouse reception weeks earlier. Questions that weren't curiosity so much as inventory. Did I prioritize family? Did I cancel trips for marriage? Did I plan to settle? He said it felt like a test. Hearing that confirmed what my gut already knew. This wasn't a one-off. It was a pattern. I met the attorney again by the pool bar the next afternoon. She laid it out cleanly. No theatrics. Annulment based on fraud and coercion, destruction of federal documents to control behavior, a forged signature on a lease, if it existed, would be another nail. She told me to keep every message, every threat, every receipt. Do not engage, she said. Let evidence do the talking. We shook hands, and for the first time since the courthouse ceremony, I felt something like confidence. I spent the rest of the trip actually present. I danced, I swam, I toasted my brother and his wife. My phone stayed quiet except for a few messages from random numbers I didn't open. I blocked them without reading. I wasn't running, I was conserving energy. When I flew back 2 weeks later, I landed on a Sunday evening. I took an Uber to the apartment we shared. His car was there. I used my key. It still worked. So much for changing the locks. Inside, the lights were warm, the air staged. He was waiting on the couch in a fitted dress shirt, hair done, dinner laid out like a scene he'd rehearsed. Welcome home, he said, stepping forward for a hug. Fils. I stepped back. No. The smile slipped. He tried a softer tone. He said he overreacted. He said he got scared. He said we should talk. I told him I was filing for an annulment the next morning. I told him I'd met an attorney at the wedding. The shift was immediate, sweet to confused to furious in seconds. He called it a mistake. I called it a crime. He said it was my passport too because we were married. I told him that wasn't how passports worked, and we wouldn't be married much longer. I walked to the bedroom and started packing. He followed, pleading, promising therapy, saying he'd change. Then the truth slipped out. He said he quit his job for me. That was news. I asked when. He said last week. He said he thought we'd start a family. I told him I never asked him to quit, never discussed children, never consented to being controlled. He blocked the door. I told him to move or I'd call the police. He moved just enough. I left with a suitcase and my laptop. He followed me down the hall, crying, banging on the Uber window as it pulled away. I checked into a hotel and called my attorney. File first thing, I said. I want this done. She told me to bring everything. I slept better than I had in months. The annulment papers were filed Monday morning. My attorney was efficient in the way only someone who has seen this pattern 100 times can be. She didn't dramatize it or soften it. She called it what it was. Fraud, coercion, destruction of federal documents to control behavior. She told me this was one of the clearest cases she'd seen in a while, and that clarity mattered more than speed. Evidence wins. Emotion complicates. I signed where she told me to sign and walked out of her office feeling strangely lighter, like I'd finally stopped arguing with reality. He was served on Wednesday at the apartment. Thursday morning at 6:47 a.m., the hotel phone rang. The front desk told me there was a woman in the lobby claiming to be my wife, demanding access to my room. I went downstairs in a bathrobe and saw him pacing, makeup smeared, yesterday's clothes wrinkled, voice already raised. When he saw me, he surged forward, shouting that I couldn't leave him, that we were married, that I owed him. Hotel security stepped in immediately. I told them calmly that there was an annulment filing and that he was not permitted to contact me. He lunged again, and security caught him. He was escorted out, screaming about lawyers and ruined lives. I filed a police report before I even got back to my room and sent the incident number to my attorney. She replied within minutes. This helps. The calls escalated after that. His mother, his sister, a friend claiming I manipulated him into marriage and then threw him away. One message chilled me to the bone. A friend saying he told them I pushed him. A false allegation, the kind that can end a life with one sentence. I called my attorney immediately. She told me not to engage and to document everything. She was right. 2 days later, he showed up at my parents' house at 1:30 a.m., drunk, pounding on the door. My father called the police. They removed him. I filed for a restraining order the next morning. At the hearing, he tried to flip the script again. He claimed I withheld financial support, alienated him from his family, abandoned him without warning. The judge looked at the evidence: the passport photo with the timestamp, the hotel security footage, the police report from my parents' house, the forged signature on a lease addendum he'd slipped through without my consent. The judge granted the restraining order, 500 feet, 1 year. No contact except through attorneys. His mother yelled. Both were escorted out. The annulment hearing was set for 8 weeks after I returned from the wedding. He showed up in white, a theatrical choice that told me everything I needed to know. His attorney claimed I lured him into marriage with promises of support, then cruelly abandoned him after he sacrificed his career. My attorney submitted the timeline. We dated 6 months before he pushed for a courthouse wedding, financial records showing no promise of support, employment records showing he quit after I left for the wedding, not before. The passport photo, the texts, the hotel incident, the police report, the restraining order, the forged lease signature. The judge asked one question that ended it. Did you destroy your spouse's passport to prevent travel? Silence. The gavel came down. Annulment granted. Void from the beginning, as if it never existed. Outside the courthouse, he tried to approach me. The bailiff blocked him. He screamed that I'd regret it, that everyone would know what I was. My attorney walked me to my car and said the words I'd been waiting to hear. You're legally single, like you never got married. I drove to my brother's place. He handed me a beer and said, "Hell yeah." 3 months later, my life was quiet in a way that felt earned. Not empty. Quiet. I had moved into a different apartment in a different building. Sunlight in the mornings. No shared history in the walls. Work steadied. I didn't miss deadlines or explain myself. My boss noticed, not with suspicion, but with relief. And when a promotion came up, I took it without asking permission from anyone. The space around me stopped feeling temporary. The fallout continued at a distance, like weather over another city. Friends forwarded me bits and pieces I didn't ask for. He tried to reframe the story with anyone who would listen, claiming I used him, that I married him fast and threw him away faster, that I chose a wedding over my husband. The facts never changed, but the story shifted to fit the audience. The woman from his office, the one who had hovered in the margins and asked questions like she was taking inventory, faded out of the picture when consequences arrived. Office transfers happened. Promotions stalled. Proximity lost its shine when secrecy evaporated. He tried to contact me through mutual friends. They shut it down. Some of them had seen the court documents by then. Hard to argue with timestamps, police reports, and a judge's order. His mother sent my mother a letter calling me cruel and heartless. My mother mailed it back with 3 words written across the envelope in marker. She shredded her passport. The conversation ended. I learned small things about myself in the calm that followed, that I slept better without my phone buzzing at midnight, that I laughed more easily when no one was tallying my choices, that love doesn't require proof in the form of sacrifice. I went on a few dates and took them slowly. When asked about my past, I told the truth without drama. I married too fast. I missed the red flags. I got out. The honesty filtered people better than any rule I could have invented. Every once in a while, I thought about how close I came to staying, how easily I could have apologized for wanting to see my family, negotiated my freedom into smaller and smaller allowances, learned to live with a man who believed control was care. The passport wasn't the beginning. It was the proof. and proof changes everything. The annulment didn't give me a happy ending. It gave me a clean one. Legally, the marriage never existed. Emotionally, it taught me what to listen for the first time someone tells you who they are. The quiet apartment, the steady work, the freedom to book a flight without asking permission. Those were enough. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. When someone destroys your property to control your movement, believe them the first time. Document everything. Leave quickly. It doesn't get better. It escalates. I almost missed my brother's wedding because I married someone who thought love meant ownership. Instead, I made the wedding, met the right attorney, and walked out of a life that would have shrunk me. The passport was replaced. The marriage was erased. My life moved forward, and I didn't look back.